The heavy glass door of the bakery pushed open with a soft, expensive hush. Sarah stepped inside, gripping Lily's hand tightly, her eyes darting nervously across the shelves lined with artisanal cakes and delicate pastries. The air inside smelled of rich espresso, melted butter and fresh bread. She took a deep, shaky breath, filling her lungs with the warmth before gathering the courage to approach the marble counter. The young man behind the register barely looked up from his phone. Sarah cleared her throat, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. "Good morning. I was wondering if you happen to have any day-old cakes, or anything you're planning to throw away." The employee blinked twice, looking confused and slightly annoyed. A woman in a tailored coat and heels turned her head near the display case, eyeing them with mild disdain. A man in a sharp business suit paused, his spoon clinking softly against his coffee cup. Sarah felt Lily's small hand squeeze hers tighter. "It's for my daughter's birthday. She turned 6 today." The silence that followed was heavy, thick with judgment. The employee looked down at Lily, her messy hair, the worn-out sneakers, a stained pink backpack hanging loosely from her small shoulders. The little girl lowered her gaze, staring at the scuffed floor tiles. We don't do handouts here. We don't give away merchandise." The guy's voice was low, but sharp enough to cut. Sarah nodded slowly, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the strap of her torn canvas bag. She was about to turn and leave, defeated, when a deep voice resonated from the corner of the shop. "How much is that chocolate ganache cake in the window?" Ethan pointed a finger at the display, without taking his eyes off Sarah. The employee swallowed hard, caught off guard. "The chocolate one? That's $120, sir." Ethan reached into his blazer's inner pocket and pulled out a slim leather wallet. He placed 2 crisp $100 bills on the counter. "Box it up. It's for her." He gestured clearly toward Lily. The little girl looked up slowly, her mouth slightly open in shock. Sarah took a defensive step forward. "No, I can't accept that. It's already paid for." Ethan slid the bills toward the employee, who looked between them, unsure of what to do. The woman in heels tucked her phone into her designer bag, watching the scene unfold as if it were a live performance. Sarah shook her head. "Sir, you don't need to do this. I know." His voice was calm, no pity, no judgment, just a quiet, steady fact. The employee snatched the bills and hurried to the display case. He unlocked the glass door, carefully removed the chocolate cake with its glossy finish, and began placing it into an elegant white box. Lily let go of her mother's hand and took 2 tentative steps toward the counter, her eyes glued to the box like it was gold. "Can you put 6 candles in there?" Ethan asked. The young man nodded. Sarah stood frozen in the same spot, her arms crossed over her chest, holding herself together. Her breathing was shallow and fast. Lily turned to her. "Mum, look." The girl's voice was thin, filled with a fragile kind of hope. Sarah forced a smile, though her chin trembled. Ethan tucked his wallet away and stepped a little closer. "I apologize if I overstepped. I just thought every child deserves a cake on their birthday. We aren't anyone's charity project." Sarah's words came out hard, brittle with pride. Ethan stopped a few feet away, respecting her boundary. "I didn't mean to imply that, but that's what it looked like." The employee placed the sealed box on the counter. Lily stretched her neck, trying to see over the edge. The colorful candles were taped to the lid. Sarah closed her eyes for a second, fighting back the sting of tears. When she opened them again, she looked straight at Ethan. "Thank you, but we can't owe you anything." "You don't owe me a thing." "Yes, we do." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, looking uncomfortable. He glanced at Lily, who was now tracing the gold logo on the side of the box, careful not to smudge it. The girl was smiling for the first time since they had walked in. He took a deep breath. "Then let me buy you a coffee. Call it even." Sarah opened her mouth to refuse, but Lily tugged gently on the hem of her shirt. "Mom, I'm hungry." The voice was a whisper, ashamed. Sarah pressed her lips into a thin line. Ethan pointed to an empty table near the window overlooking the street. Just a coffee, and maybe a couple of warm cheese scones, nothing more. Sarah looked down at her daughter. Lily still had her hand bunching up Sarah's shirt, her eyes begging without words. She sighed, the fight draining out of her. "Okay, but just a coffee." Ethan signaled the barista and ordered 2 lattes, a black coffee, 3 warm cheese scones, and 2 fresh orange juices. Sarah started to say it was too much, but he had already taken a seat. Lily pulled out a heavy wooden chair and climbed up with effort, her backpack thumping against the backrest. The cake sat in the center of the table, inside the white box, with the bakery's gold script gleaming under the pendant lights. "I'm Ethan." He extended a hand. Sarah looked at it for a beat before shaking it cautiously. "Sarah, and this is Lily." "Hi, Lily. Happy birthday." The girl ducked her head, shy, but smiled at her lap. Ethan leaned back in his chair. The woman in heels walked past them and exited the bakery, casting one last curious glance over her shoulder. The barista brought the drinks and pastries on a silver tray. Lily grabbed the juice glass with both hands and drank half of it in one long gulp. Sarah placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Slow down, baby." "Sorry." Lily set the glass down and wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Ethan took a sip of his black coffee and looked out the window. The city moved relentlessly on the other side of the glass. Yellow cabs blurring by, people in coats rushing down the sidewalk, heads down against the wind. He turned back to the table. "Do you live around here?" Sarah picked up a scone and broke off a small piece. She hesitated before answering. We're staying in different places right now. It's temporary." Ethan nodded, understanding the subtext perfectly. Lily chewed slowly, her gaze fixed on the cake box. Sarah took a sip of the latte and closed her eyes. It was hot, sweet, rich. It had been so long since she had tasted something that wasn't stale or cold. When she opened her eyes, Ethan was looking at Lily's backpack. The broken zipper, the strap repaired with duct tape, the side stained with dried mud. "Lily, do you like school?" The girl looked up. "I used to." "Used to?" "She's not going right now," Sarah interrupted quickly, "but she'll be back soon." Ethan took another sip. He didn't ask any more questions. Lily finished the scone and licked the crumbs off her fingers. Sarah wiped her face with a paper napkin. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was just quiet. Ethan stirred his coffee idly. "Can I ask you a question?" Sarah looked at him, guarding herself. "Depends on the question. Do you have a place to stay tonight?" Sarah's hand froze in mid-air, holding the napkin. Lily lowered her head again. Ethan waited. Sarah set the napkin down on the table. "We'll figure it out." That wasn't an answer. "It's the only one I have." Ethan took a deep breath. He opened his wallet again and pulled out a minimalist business card. He slid it across the table, resting it between the cake box and Sarah's coffee. She looked at the card without touching it. "I have a large house, too large, and it's completely empty." Sarah frowned, suspicion clouding her eyes. "You don't know me, sir." "I know. Then why would you do this?" Ethan looked at Lily. The girl had her finger resting on the side of the box again, tracing the loops of the gold letters. He turned his eyes back to Sarah. "Because I know what it's like to live in an empty house, and I know what it's like not to have one at all." Sarah picked up the card. She read it. Ethan Hayes, architect, an address in a neighborhood she knew was out of her league. A phone number. She turned the card over in her hand. "I'm not the type to accept charity. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a job. My house needs someone to take care of it. Housekeeper, cook, whatever you want to call it. Salary, room and board, everything on the books." Sarah stared at him, looking for the catch, the gimmick, the hidden agenda. But Ethan just waited, open and readable. Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mom?" Sarah swallowed hard. She tucked the card into her pocket. "I'll think about it." Ethan nodded. He finished his coffee and stood up. The number is there. Call if you decide." He gave a small wave to Lily and walked out of the bakery. Sarah remained seated, watching the glass door swing shut behind him. Lily climbed onto her lap and wrapped her arms around Sarah's neck. "Are we going to have a house, Mommy?" Sarah didn't answer. She just pulled her daughter tight against her chest and closed her eyes. Sarah and Lily walked out of the bakery, the cake box balanced in Sarah's hands. The afternoon light was fading, casting long shadows over the city streets. They walked 3 blocks until they reached the small park where they had slept the night before. The wooden bench was still empty. Sarah sat down and placed the cake on her lap. Lily sat next to her, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. "Are we going to sing Happy Birthday?" "We will, but after it gets dark, when there are fewer people around." Lily nodded. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a crumpled notebook. She opened it to a page with a drawing of a house. 3 windows. A door. 2 stick figures out front. Sarah looked at it and pressed her lips together. "It's beautiful, baby." "It's us, in the new house." Sarah smoothed her daughter's hair. She looked up at the sky, at the sun disappearing behind the jagged skyline of the city. 6 months ago, they had an apartment. Small, rented, but it was theirs. Michael worked as a delivery driver. She cleaned houses during the day. Lily went to school in the morning and stayed with a neighbor in the afternoon. Life wasn't easy, but it had order. It had routine. It had a roof. Then Michael didn't come home one night. The phone rang at 3 in the morning. Accident, delivery bike, truck. He died before the ambulance could even get there. Sarah spent the first 3 days unable to eat. Lily cried every night for her dad. The bills started piling up. Rent, electricity, water. She took on more cleaning jobs, but it wasn't enough to cover the debt. The landlord knocked on the door in the 5th month. Eviction. 2 weeks to vacate. Sarah sold everything she could. The sofa, the TV, the bed. She packed the rest into a backpack and walked out with Lily for the last time. They slept at a cousin's house for the first week. Then the cousin said her husband didn't want extra people there anymore. Sarah tried the shelters, but they were at capacity. Wait lists. Months long. She and Lily started sleeping on park benches, under store awnings, in empty subway stations during the early hours. Lily stopped going to school. Sarah tried to explain it was temporary, but the girls stopped asking when they would go back. She just held her mother's hand and stayed quiet. Every day Sarah woke up before the sun rose. She washed Lily's face in a public restroom, changed her clothes when she could find a private stall. She looked for work, but nobody hired someone without an address. Nobody trusted someone who walked in with wrinkled clothes and the smell of the streets on them. The savings ran out. Food became scraps, day-old bread, bruised fruit, whatever people left on their plates at fast food joints. Sarah ate less, so Lily could eat more. She lost 15 pounds in 2 months. Her clothes hung off her frame. Her eyes grew hollow. Lily closed the notebook and put it away. She looked at the cake. "Can I see it?" Sarah opened the box. The cake was still perfect. The frosting shone. The colourful candles waited. Lily smiled. "It's the most beautiful one I've ever seen." Sarah closed the box again. She took the card out of her pocket and looked at it. Ethan Hayes, architect, an address in a wealthy part of town. She flipped the card. Why would a man like that offer a job to a stranger? Why did he look at Lily that way? Not with pity, just sadness, like he recognized it. 2 hours later, Sarah lit the candles with a lighter, borrowed from a homeless man sleeping 3 benches down. Lily closed her eyes. Sarah sang Happy Birthday in a whisper, her voice cracking halfway through. Lily blew. The flames vanished in thin trails of smoke. She opened her eyes and smiled. "I wished for a house." Sarah hugged her daughter. She looked at the card again, illuminated by the weak yellow light of the street lamp. She took out her old phone, battery critically low. She dialed the number. Waited. 3 rings. 4. "Hello." Ethan's voice sounded tired. "It's Sarah. From the bakery." Silence on the other end. She almost hung up. "You called. I accept the job. If the offer still stands." "It stands. Can you come tomorrow?" Sarah looked at Lily, who was eating a piece of cake with her hands. She closed her eyes. "We can come right now." Ethan paused before answering. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted. "Send me your location. I'll come get you." Sarah hung up. She texted the location of the park and put the phone away. Lily put the cake down and climbed into her lap. "Are we going home, Mom?" "I think so." 40 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb next to the park. Ethan stepped out. He was wearing the same clothes as before, but his blazer was tossed in the back seat. He popped the trunk. Sarah grabbed the backpack and the cake box. Lily held onto her hand tightly. Ethan waited for them to approach. "Sorry I asked you to come now. You don't need to explain." He opened the back door. Lily climbed in first. Sarah got in after her, balancing the cake box on her knees. Ethan closed the door and got back into the driver's seat. He started the car. Sarah looked out the window. The park fell behind. The empty bench. The dim street lamp. Everything that had been home for the last few weeks vanished in seconds. Ethan drove in silence. Lily rested her head against the window, her eyes already heavy. Sarah looked in the rearview mirror. Ethan's jaw was set tight. His hands gripped the steering wheel. He didn't look happy. He looked relieved, like he had been waiting for someone to arrive too. 20 minutes later, he stopped in front of a high-security gate. He pressed a remote. The gate slid open slowly. The house on the other side was impressive. 2 stories, modern but classic, lights on in every window. Ethan parked. He looked in the rearview mirror. "Welcome." Ethan unlocked the front door. The foyer was expansive, with hardwood floors and a sweeping staircase leading up. Lily walked in slowly, backpack still on, looking up at the high ceilings. Sarah stood by the door, holding the cake box. Ethan flipped a switch, brightening the space. "I'll show you your room." He walked up the stairs. Sarah and Lily followed. The hallway on the second floor had 4 doors, all closed, except one at the end. Ethan pushed the door open and turned on the light. The room had a queen-sized bed, a wardrobe, and a large window with beige curtains. Simple, clean. "There's a bathroom right there." Ethan pointed to the door inside. "If you need anything else, let me know." Sarah walked into the room. She set the cake box on the dresser. Lily dropped her backpack on the floor and climbed onto the bed. She sank into the mattress and closed her eyes. Sarah turned to Ethan. "Thank you." "No need to thank me." He started to leave, then paused at the door. "There's food in the fridge. Feel free to come down whenever you want." Sarah nodded. Ethan closed the door. She heard his footsteps fading down the stairs. She looked at Lily, already asleep in her dirty clothes. She went to the bed and took off the girl's worn sneakers, pulled the duvet over her. She sat on the edge and watched her. Lily was breathing slowly, her face relaxed for the first time in months. Sarah lay down next to her daughter, but she couldn't close her eyes. She stared at the ceiling, the window, the empty wardrobe. None of it felt real. In the middle of the night, she went down to the kitchen. The house was silent. She opened the fridge, full, fruit, vegetables, milk, cheese, deli meats. She poured a glass of water and sat at the island. Ethan appeared in the doorway, wearing sweats and a t-shirt. "Couldn't sleep?" "No." He walked over to the coffee maker and turned it on. He grabbed 2 mugs. "Want some?" "Sure." Ethan brewed the coffee in silence. He placed the mugs on the counter and sat across from her. Sarah took a sip. He stirred his coffee without drinking it. "I know this is weird." "It is. But I don't have any ulterior motives. I just need someone to take care of the house. It's too big for me alone." Sarah looked at him. "Why do you live alone? In a house like this?" Ethan hesitated. "My wife died 3 years ago. We bought this place together. It was supposed to be our fresh start." Sarah lowered her eyes to her coffee. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." They sat in silence. The coffee maker hissed and stopped. Ethan took a sip. "And you?" Lily's father died, accident, 6 months ago. Ethan nodded slowly. Sarah cleared her throat. So, do we start tomorrow, the work? Start whenever you want, but rest first. I don't need to rest. I need to work. Ethan finished his coffee. Tomorrow then. I'll leave some cash for you to buy new clothes for Lily. School uniforms too. Sarah opened her mouth to refuse, but he raised a hand. It's not charity, it's an advance. I'll deduct it from your salary. She closed her mouth, nodded. Ethan washed the mugs and went back upstairs. Sarah was left alone in the kitchen. She looked around. The house was beautiful, well-maintained but cold, like no one really lived there. She went back up to the room. Lily was still sleeping. Sarah lay down again. This time she managed to close her eyes. The next morning, Lily woke up confused. She looked at the room, the white ceiling, the sunlight streaming through the window. She sat up in bed. "Mom? I'm here." Sarah came out of the bathroom. She had showered. Her hair was wet. Lily scrambled off the bed and ran to her. "We're still here." "Yeah, and we're staying." Lily hugged her mum. Ethan knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" "Come in." He walked in holding a shopping bag. He placed it on the bed. "I picked up some basics last night. Thought Lily might need them." Sarah opened the bag. Clothes, jeans, shirts, a dress, all new. Lily's eyes went wide. Ethan scratched the back of his neck. "I don't know if I got the sizes right." "You did." Sarah's voice was soft. She pulled a blue dress out of the bag. Lily touched the fabric. "Is it mine?" "It's yours." Lily grabbed the dress and hugged it. Ethan smiled for the first time. A small smile. Barely there, but real. Sarah put away the rest of the clothes and went down with Lily for breakfast. The table was set. Toast, butter, jam, juice, coffee. Lily ate 3 slices of toast with jam. Ethan read the news on a tablet. Sarah drank her coffee and observed. The scene looked like a family, but it wasn't. Not yet. Over the next few days, a routine took shape. Sarah woke up early, cleaned the house, did laundry, cooked. Ethan worked in his study on the ground floor. Lily drew at the coffee table in the living room. Sarah enrolled her in a nearby public school. On the first day, Lily gripped her mother's hand tightly at the classroom door. Sarah crouched down. "It's going to be okay. What if nobody likes me?" "They will. How could they not? You're amazing." Lily walked in. Sarah waited outside until the bell rang. That afternoon, when she picked her up, Lily came out beaming. She had made a friend, a girl named Beatrice. They had already arranged to sit together the next day. On the walk back, Lily didn't stop talking. Sarah held her hand and thanked the universe silently. Ethan started coming home earlier from work. He ate dinner with them. He asked how Lily's day was. Listened to her stories about the teacher, the lessons, Beatrice. One day he saw Lily struggling with math homework. He pulled a chair up next to her. "Let me see." Lily showed him the notebook. Addition problems. Ethan picked up a pencil and explained it slowly. Lily got it by the second example. She finished the rest on her own. Ethan stayed there until she was done. Sarah watched from the kitchen, drying a plate. She saw how Ethan spoke to Lily, with patience, with attention, like a father would. Weeks later, Ethan came down with a chess set. Lily was in the living room watching cartoons. He placed the board on the coffee table. "Want to learn?" Lily looked at the pieces. "Is it hard?" "At first? Then it gets easy." Ethan taught her the rules, how each piece moved, the goal of the game. Lily lost the first 3 games. On the 4th, she almost won. Ethan had to actually think before making a move. Sarah sat on the sofa and watched. The house felt different. It had sound. It had laughter. It had life. Ethan looked at her and smiled. Sarah smiled back. At night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Sarah stayed in the living room talking. He told her about his wife, Valerie, how they met in college, the plans they had, the house they bought together but never really lived in. Sarah told him about Michael, about what it was like working all day and still not making rent, about the fear of losing Lily to CPS, about the nights sleeping on the street praying no one would hurt them. Ethan listened to everything, without interrupting, without judging. He just listened, and Sarah realized he understood, not in a superficial way. He really understood. Because he had lost too. He had been left alone too. He had become a ghost in his own home too, until they arrived. A month later, the house didn't feel empty anymore. Lily drew at the table while Ethan worked on his laptop nearby. Sarah cooked, listening to soft music in the kitchen. They ate dinner together every day, talked, laughed. Ethan helped Lily with homework. Sarah folded his laundry along with hers and Lily's. The lines between employer and employee began to blur. They turned into something else, something neither of them knew how to name yet, but it was there, growing slowly, like a second chance neither of them expected to get. Sundays became sacred. Ethan woke up before 7, even on weekends. He went down to the kitchen and brewed fresh coffee. Sarah appeared 15 minutes later, still in pajamas. Lily was always the last one. She came down dragging her slippers, eyes half shut, hair messy. Ethan already had her mug ready. Hot cocoa with marshmallows. Lily climbed onto the chair and held the mug with both hands. "Morning." Her voice was raspy with sleep. Ethan smiled. Sarah put bread in the toaster. They ate slowly. No rush, no phones at the table. Lily told them about her dreams. Ethan pretended to believe her when she said she could fly. Sarah buttered her toast and listened. The morning light poured through the window. The coffee got cold. No one cared. After breakfast, Lily went to the yard to draw. Ethan watered the plants. Sarah did the dishes. He came in to get water and stood there, drying the plates. She washed. He dried. Neither spoke much. They just stood there. The radio played quietly in the background. Lily sang loudly outside, making up lyrics to songs. She sings just like her mother. Ethan placed a plate in the cabinet. Sarah laughed. "I don't sing. I hear you singing in the kitchen every day. That's not singing. That's humming. It's nice." Sarah stopped scrubbing the pan. She looked at him. Ethan didn't look up from the glass he was drying. She went back to washing. The silence that followed wasn't strange. It was just full. In the afternoon, Ethan taught Lily how to ride a bike in the driveway. He had bought one the week before, pink with training wheels. Lily got on and asked to take the training wheels off that same day. "You're going to fall." "No, I won't." Ethan took them off. Lily fell 3 times in the first 5 minutes. On the 4th try, she pedaled alone for almost 10 seconds before tipping over onto the grass. Sarah watched from the porch, arms crossed, a smile on her face. Ethan helped Lily up. She had a scrape on her knee. He cleaned it and put a Band-Aid on. "Want to stop?" "No." Lily grabbed the bike again. Ethan held the handlebars and ran alongside her. He let go. Lily pedaled alone. 30 feet, 40. She looked back and screamed. "Mom, look!" Ethan ran after her. Lily turned her head and crashed into a small tree. She fell, started crying. Ethan got there first. He scooped her up. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his shoulder. He carried her inside. Sarah was already there with ice. Lily stopped crying when Ethan promised ice cream after dinner. Monday nights were movie nights. Ethan let Lily choose. She always picked animated movies. They sat on the big sofa, Lily in the middle. Sarah on one side, Ethan on the other, the popcorn bowl on Lily's lap. She ate and narrated the entire movie. Ethan and Sarah exchanged glances over her head, looks of shared understanding, that this was more than a job, more than temporary help. It was family, even if neither of them said it out loud. Ethan started arriving earlier and earlier from the office. Before, he stayed until 7 or later. Now, he left at 4. Lily was already home when he walked in. She ran to the door when she heard the car. Ethan walked in, dropped his briefcase, and asked about school. Lily pulled him by the hand to the living room table, showed him her homework, her tests, the drawings the teacher had put up on the wall. Ethan looked at everything, praised her, asked about every detail. Sarah watched from a distance. She saw how Ethan talked to Lily, how he looked at her. It wasn't an adult being polite to a kid anymore. It was a father talking to his daughter. On Wednesdays, Ethan helped with homework. Lily struggled with reading and spelling. He sat next to her and read the passages out loud, explained the hard words. Lily wrote slowly, tongue sticking out in concentration. Ethan corrected her with infinite patience, never complained, never rushed her, just stayed there, until she understood, until she got it right. Sarah cooked, listening to their voices in the living room, Ethan asking, Lily answering, the sound of pencil on paper, the sound of pages turning, sounds of home. On Fridays, Sarah baked a cake. Lily helped. Ethan came home and found them both in the kitchen. Lily in an apron that was way too big. Sarah with flour on her cheek. He leaned against the doorframe and watched. Lily mixed the batter with force. Sarah held the bowl. They laughed at something he hadn't heard. He didn't ask. He just stood there, watching, memorizing the image, because 3 years ago that kitchen was silent, empty, dead. And now it smelled like vanilla and chocolate. It had laughter. It had life. On Saturday mornings, the three of them went to the grocery store. Ethan drove. Lily sang in the back seat. Sarah made the list on her phone. They filled the cart together. Lily picked the vegetables. Ethan grabbed things from the high shelves. Sarah checked the prices. At the checkout, the cashier asked if it was all together. Ethan said yes without hesitating. Sarah didn't correct him. On the way back, they stopped for ice cream. Lily asked for 2 flavors. Ethan got 3. Sarah got 1 and stole a spoonful of Ethan's. He pretended to be mad. Lily laughed so hard she almost dropped her cone. At night, Ethan tucked Lily in. He went up with her, read a story, the same story he had already read 6 times. Lily didn't get bored. She closed her eyes and listened to his voice. When he finished, she was asleep. Ethan covered her, turned off the light, went downstairs. Sarah was in the living room, folding clean laundry. He sat on the sofa and picked up a towel to fold too. You don't have to do that. I know, but I'm going to anyway. They folded in silence. The TV was on low volume. A movie neither of them was watching. Sarah picked up one of his shirts, folded it, placed it on the stack. Ethan picked up a sheet. Can I ask you something? Sarah looked at him. Sure. Are you happy here? She stopped folding, looked at the laundry basket. The folded towels, the house around them, the stairs where Lily slept safe. She looked at Ethan, waiting for the answer. She took a deep breath. I am. For the first time in a long time, I am. Ethan nodded. He went back to folding. Sarah too. But they both knew something had shifted in the air. That answer meant more than it seemed. It meant she wasn't leaving, that this wasn't temporary, that they had built something real, something neither of them was willing to lose. On weekends, Ethan taught Lily how to play cards. Sarah watched, laughing every time Lily cheated shamelessly. Ethan pretended not to see. Let her win. Lily celebrated like she had won the Super Bowl. Sarah went to the kitchen to make tea. Ethan followed her with his eyes. Lily shuffled the cards, focused. The house was warm, full, alive. Ethan looked around. The new photos on the wall, Lily's toys on the floor, Sarah's sweater on the sofa, the life that had invaded every room. He closed his eyes and gave thanks. He didn't know to whom. He just gave thanks for buying that cake, for offering help, for opening the door, for letting them in, for letting them stay, for letting them save him too. Sarah came back with steaming tea, sat next to him. Lily dealt the cards. They played until late. Lily won 4 times. Ethan and Sarah lost on purpose. Nobody cared, because there, in that moment, playing cards on a Friday night, they weren't boss and employee. They weren't strangers helping each other. They were 3 people who found each other at the right time, who chose each other, who became family without needing a paper, without needing blood. They just needed time, presence. Small gestures repeated every day. Breakfasts on Sundays, cake on Fridays, homework, movies on Mondays, ice cream on Saturdays, nights, folding laundry, comfortable silences, looks that said more than words, a house that had finally become a home again. Sarah was putting towels away in the hallway closet when she saw it. The door at the end of the hall, always closed, always ignored. She had walked past it hundreds of times in 2 months, never asked, never tried to open it. But today, the door was ajar, just a crack, enough to see a sliver of light blue wall. She looked around. Ethan was in his study, Lily at school. The house was quiet. Sarah took 2 steps toward the door. Stopped. It wasn't her business. But the door was still there, open, inviting. She pushed gently. The room was small, intimate, walls painted a soft baby blue. A white crib sat in the corner, a dresser with closed drawers, curtains with little yellow stars, everything covered in a thin layer of dust and neglect. Sarah walked in. The floorboard creaked. She ran her hand along the railing of the crib. The wood was cold. She opened a drawer in the dresser. Baby clothes, all neatly folded, never worn, tags still on. On the wall, a framed photo. She leaned in. The photo showed a younger Ethan, smiling next to a pregnant woman. His hand rested on her belly, both looking at the camera with that kind of happiness that needs no caption. Sarah felt her stomach drop. She turned and walked out fast, closed the door, leaned against it and breathed deep, trembling. Ethan had never mentioned it. He never said his wife was pregnant. He only said she died. Sarah went back to her room, sat on the bed. Her hands shook. She looked at the window, at the yard where Lily played every day, at the room Ethan had set up for them, at the house he had opened, at the family they were building. Was that it? A replacement? Were Sarah and Lily filling the space the wife and baby left behind? She closed her eyes, tried to push the thought away. But it came back, it grew, it took up all the space in her head. That evening, Ethan noticed, she barely spoke at dinner. Lily chattered about science class. Sarah smiled at the right moments, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Ethan asked if everything was okay. She said yes. He didn't push, but he kept watching her, trying to understand. After Lily was asleep, Sarah went downstairs. Ethan was in the living room reading. She stopped in the doorway. "I need to talk to you." He closed the book. "Of course." Sarah sat in the armchair, not on the sofa next to him like she usually did. In the armchair, far away. Ethan frowned. "Did something happen?" "I went into the room, the one at the end of the hall." Ethan went still. His jaw tightened visibly. He placed the book on the coffee table carefully. The door was open. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. He nodded slowly, stared at his own hands. Sarah waited. The silence was heavy. "You didn't tell me she was pregnant." "I know." "Why?" Ethan took a deep breath, stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the darkness, turned his back to her. "Because it's the part I try hardest to forget." Sarah gripped the arms of the chair, digging her nails into the fabric. "How far along was she?" 6 months. It was a girl. His voice cracked at the end. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of it. When she opened them, he was still facing away. "Ethan, I need to know something." He turned. His eyes were red. Are Lily and I, are we here because you need a family? Because you need to fill the hole of what you lost?" Ethan took a step forward, alarmed. "No." "Are you sure?" "Because sometimes I watch Lily running through the house and I wonder if she's just a stand-in, if I'm just someone you put in your wife's place." "Sarah, answer me honestly. Are we a real family or just a bandage?" Her voice came out hard, demanding truth. Ethan rubbed his face, exhausted, went back to the sofa, sat down. He stayed silent for so long, Sarah thought he wasn't going to answer. "In the beginning, maybe that was it. I don't know. I was so empty that when I saw you two in the bakery, I just wanted to help. I wanted to do something that meant something. But then you came here and the house changed, and it wasn't because I was trying to relive the past. It was because you brought new life. Not a replacement. New life. Sarah stared at him. Ethan looked up at her. Lily isn't the daughter I lost. She is Lily. With her stubbornness, with her endless stories, with the way she cheats at cards and thinks I don't notice. And you aren't my wife. You are Sarah, who hums when she cooks, who folds my clothes even when I ask her not to, who looks at Lily like she's the most important thing in the universe. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. He continued, I don't want you to replace anyone. I want you to stay, as you are, because this family we built isn't a reflection of what I lost. It's something completely new, and I don't want to lose it again. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But if you feel you're here out of obligation, if you think I'm using you to fix a wound, then tell me, we'll figure it out. Sarah shook her head. It's not obligation, it never was. I got scared. Scared that this was all temporary, that when you actually healed we wouldn't be necessary anymore. You will always be necessary. Not as medicine, as family. Sarah stood up. Ethan stood up too. They stood there in the middle of the living room. The wall clock ticked toward midnight. The house quiet around them. Sarah took a step. Another. She hugged him. Ethan closed his eyes, hugged her back. She felt his chest rise and fall, uneven, shaking. He was crying, silently, no sound, just trembling in her arms. Sarah held him tighter. He buried his face in her shoulder. They stayed like that for minutes. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. When they pulled apart, Ethan wiped his face. Sarah took his hand. You need to open that room. He swallowed hard. I know, but I can't. Not alone, but maybe with someone by your side, you can. Ethan looked at her hand holding his, nodded slowly. Sarah squeezed his fingers. He squeezed back. And in that silence, in that handshake, in that dark house, they both knew something had changed forever. The fear had been named. The truth had been spoken. And they were still there, together, not as replacements for those they lost, but as people who chose each other, who decided to build something new on the ruins of what was. Something that didn't erase the past, but didn't stay trapped in it either. Something that had a name, had a shape, had a future, family, real, imperfect, but theirs. The next morning, Ethan woke up before dawn. Sarah heard him going down the stairs. She got up, found him in the kitchen standing by the window, hands in pockets, shoulders tense. She didn't say anything, just stood in the doorway. He turned. I want to open the room today. His voice was rough. Sarah nodded. I'm coming with you. After breakfast, when Lily went out to play in the yard, the two of them went up. Ethan stopped in front of the door, hand on the knob. He didn't open it. Sarah touched his arm gently. Take your time. He breathed deep. 3 times. Pushed. The door opened slowly. The hallway light spilled into the blue room. Ethan took a step, stopped, looked at the crib, the dresser, the curtains with the stars, the frame on the wall. Sarah walked in behind him, stood by his side. Ethan went to the crib, ran his hand over the mattress, the same gesture he had done 1,000 times in his head, but never for real. Not since the day he set it all up, since the day he locked the door, since the day he decided not to live anymore. Her name was going to be Grace. Sarah didn't answer, just stood there, witnessing. We bought everything, crib, clothes, mobile. We painted this room together. Valerie wanted blue, not pink, said her daughter was going to grow up free of stereotypes. He laughed, a low, sad sound, opened the dresser drawer, pulled out a small onesie, yellow with giraffes. Ethan held it against his chest. She died on a Friday, coming back from the doctor, routine checkup. A truck ran a red light, hit her side. She died instantly. Grace too. His voice broke. Sarah moved closer. Ethan wasn't sobbing, just holding the onesie, tight, as if he could bring someone back with the force of his grip. I couldn't come in here after the funeral, couldn't look, couldn't take it apart. So I just closed the door and pretended it didn't exist. I spent 3 years pretending. He put the onesie back, closed the drawer, turned to Sarah, eyes red, wet, but still not falling. Until you guys arrived. Until I saw Lily with those torn sneakers asking for expired cake. Until I saw you trying to protect her from the world. Until I realized I had another chance. Sarah felt her throat close up. Not to have Grace back, not to have Valerie, but to live again, to have a family again. And I know you were scared, that you thought you were substitutes, but you aren't. You are the reason I walked out of this room, the reason I let go of the grief, the reason I became a person again. He took a step toward her. And I don't want this to just be a job. I don't want you to stay because you need money or because you have nowhere to go. I want you to stay because you want to, because this is your home too, because Lily is as much my daughter as she is yours. Sarah swallowed, her eyes burned. Ethan, let me finish, please. She nodded. He took a breath, steeling himself. I want to adopt Lily, officially. I want her to have my last name. I want to be her dad for real, on paper, in life, in everything, and I want us to be a family, a real one. Sarah wiped her eyes. The tears fell freely now. She nodded, unable to speak. I was scared too, not just of being a replacement, but that this was all too good to be true, that at some point you'd wake up and realize we weren't enough, that we were just broken people trying to fix other broken people. Ethan took her hand. Oh, what if that's exactly what it is? Broken people fixing each other? Sarah laughed through her tears, a wet, liberating sound. He squeezed her fingers. Sarah, I spent 3 years dead, breathing, working, but dead. And you spent 6 months on the street with Lily trying to survive. We are broken, yes, but we are also here, alive, together. And maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to be. She looked at him, his face, his swollen eyes, the way he held her hand, like he was afraid she would vanish. Ethan took another step. He was close, very close. I'm not asking you to love me right now. I'm not asking for anything you can't give. I'm just asking you to stay, to try, to build this crooked family we started by accident. Sarah let go of his hand. Ethan closed his eyes. Thought she was going to reject him, going to say no, that it was too soon, too fast. But she did none of that. She hugged him, hard. Ethan opened his eyes, hugged her back. And then he cried, for real, for the first time in 3 years, his whole body shaking, hands gripping Sarah's back, breath ragged. He cried for Valerie, for Grace, for the 3 years lost in the dark, for the pain he carried alone. And he cried from relief, for not being alone anymore, for having someone there, for finding something he didn't even know he could still have. Sarah held him, let him cry. Let him empty out everything he had stored up. She cried too, for Michael, for the life they lost, for the cold nights on the street, for the fear she carried, and for the relief of finding a safe harbor, a home, a person who looked at Lily like a father, who looked at her like something she didn't know how to name yet. But that was there, real, pulsing. They pulled apart, slowly. Ethan wiped his face. Sarah, too. He smiled, a small smile, tired, but genuine. She cupped his face with both hands. We're staying, Lily and I. We're staying. Ethan closed his eyes, relieved, rested his forehead against hers. Promise? Promise. They stayed like that, standing in the middle of the blue room, the room that had been a tomb for 3 years, but now was just a room, with dust, with memories, but no more ghosts. Ethan opened his eyes, looked around. We can change this into a study or a playroom for Lily. Sarah looked too. Are you sure? Sure. Grace will always be here, in memory, in the heart. But this room doesn't need to be an untouchable shrine. It can be something else, something alive. Sarah nodded. She went to the window and threw it open. Fresh air rushed in. Sunlight hit the crib, the dresser, the curtains. Ethan stood in the center of the room, breathing, living, for the first time in so long, really living. Lily appeared at the door, looked at the room curiously, at the two adults inside. "Mom, is everything okay?" Sarah turned. "Yeah, baby, everything is okay." Lily walked in, looked around, at the crib, at the stars on the curtain. "This room is pretty." Ethan crouched down in front of her, eye level. "Lily, I wanted to ask you something." She looked at him, curious. Ethan took a deep breath. "Would you like it if I was your dad? For real?" Lily blinked, looked at her mom. Sarah smiled, nodding. Lily looked back at Ethan. "You already are." Ethan smiled. His eyes filled up again. He hugged Lily. She hugged him back. Small, strong, real. Sarah moved closer, hugged them both. And there, in that room that had held so much pain, something new was born. A family, not of blood, not of paper, of choice, of love, of mutual healing, of three people who found each other at rock bottom and decided to climb up together, not erasing the past, but building a future on top of it, a future where that blue room would be filled with a child's laughter, with toys, with life, where the house would be a home, where silence would turn into conversation, where loneliness would turn into family, and where three broken hearts would learn that sometimes the cure doesn't come from forgetting. It comes from starting over. 3 weeks later, Ethan and Sarah were sitting in a lawyer's office. Lily was drawing on a chair nearby. The woman explained the adoption process, papers, social worker visits, legal timelines. Ethan listened to everything, asking sharp questions. Sarah held the pen, her hand trembling slightly as she signed the authorization. The lawyer smiled. "It's going to be fine. You are clearly a family." On the ride back, Lily asked how long it would take. Ethan said a few months. She scrunched up her nose. "That's a long time, but it'll go by fast," and it did. The blue room was emptied on a Saturday afternoon. Ethan took apart the crib himself, packed the clothes into boxes, donated everything to a local shelter. Sarah painted the walls a pure white. Lily picked out glow-in-the-dark star and planet stickers for the ceiling. Ethan set up a large desk, shelves with books and art supplies. The room became Lily's space, to draw, to study, to dream. The first time she walked into the finished room, she stood frozen in the doorway, mouth open, eyes shining with emotion. Ethan crouched beside her. "Do you like it?" Lily didn't answer with words. She just ran to the desk and ran her hand over the smooth wood. Open drawers filled with colored pencils, markers, paints, looked at the stars stuck to the ceiling, turned to Ethan with a smile so big he felt his chest tighten. She jumped into his arms. "Thank you, Dad." It was the first time she said it out loud. Ethan closed his eyes, held her tight, cherishing the moment. Sarah watched from the door, hands on her face, eyes wet with happiness. The social worker visit started the next month. A woman in her 50s, serious but kind. She talked to Lily alone, asked if she was happy, if she liked living there, if anyone hurt her. Lily answered everything with disarming honesty, said it was the happiest house she ever had, that Ethan taught her chess, that her mum hummed when she cooked, that she had her own room now, with stars on the ceiling. The social worker talked to Ethan and Sarah together, about routine, about discipline, about plans for the future. Ethan talked about the college fund for Lily. Sarah talked about school, about the friends she made, about what it was like to see her daughter smile again. The woman wrote everything down meticulously. At the end of the third visit, she closed her folder. "I'm going to recommend approval. You are a beautiful family." The process was finalized 4 months later. On the day of the hearing, Lily wore a new blue dress, Ethan in a dark suit, Sarah in a simple, elegant black dress. The judge read the documents, asked a few formal questions, signed the papers. Lily was now Lily Hayes, officially, legally, forever. On the way back, they stopped at a diner, celebrated with milkshakes and fries. Lily wouldn't stop talking. about how she was going to write her new name on all her notebooks, about how she was going to tell Beatrice, about how she had a dad again. Ethan held Sarah's hand across the table. She interlaced her fingers with his. It wasn't just about Lily. It was about them too, about what they were building, slowly, carefully, but building on solid ground. Sarah went back to school, an associate degree in business administration, classes 3 times a week at night. Ethan watched Lily while she was out, helped with homework, made sure she bathed, put her to bed. When Sarah got back, there was always a plate saved for her, warm, on the table. Ethan sat with her while she ate. They talked about the day, about her classes, about his work, about Lily. Ethan started working fewer hours, leaving the office at 4, getting home in time to pick Lily up from school. They walked back together. She told him about class. He listened, asked questions, really cared. At home, she did homework while he worked on his laptop, both in the living room, in a comfortable, shared silence. Sarah cooked, listening to their voices, the laughter, the sounds of a functioning family. On Sundays, they went to Central Park. Lily ran ahead. Ethan and Sarah walked behind, side by side. Hands brushing sometimes holding. They weren't in a rush. They didn't have labels. They were just them, building something at their own pace, their own way. For Lily's 7th birthday, they threw a party, school friends, huge cake, balloons. Ethan and Sarah organized it all together. He handled decorations, she handled food. Lily spent the whole day smiling. When it was time to sing Happy Birthday, she asked Ethan and Sarah to stand on either side of her. They did. The 3 of them blew out the candles together, the house full of people, noise, life, exactly how it was supposed to be. That night, when everyone was gone, Lily fell asleep on the sofa, exhausted, happy. Ethan carried her upstairs, tucked her in, covered her, turned off the light, went down. Sarah was in the kitchen, washing the last few dishes. He grabbed the towel and started drying. She washed. He dried, like always, but different, because now it had a name, it had a shape, it had a future, it had everything they needed. A house, a family, a life, new, real, theirs. 5 years later. Lily was 12 now, taller, hair down to her shoulders. She walked into the living room, carrying a large poster board. Ethan was on the sofa, reading news on his tablet. Sarah was folding laundry in the armchair. Lily put the poster on the coffee table. Done! What do you think? Ethan put the tablet down, looked. The title read, Families We Choose. Below it, photos. Of the 3 of them, of the house, of the blue room turned art studio, and a text written in clear handwriting about how a family doesn't have to start with blood. It can start with a cake in a bakery. Sarah wiped a stray tear. Ethan smiled with pride. It's perfect, honey. I'm presenting it Friday. It counts for the final grade. Lily rolled up the poster carefully, ran upstairs to put it away. Ethan and Sarah exchanged looks. He reached out his hand. She took it. 5 years. It felt like a lifetime. It felt like yesterday. Sarah had graduated. She worked as a social worker now, helping homeless families. She knew the shelters. She knew the parks. She knew the fear in their eyes, because she lived it. Every week she came home with stories of mothers sleeping at bus stops, of kids out of school, of people invisible to the system. Ethan listened and decided to do something about it. They started a foundation, the Grace Foundation, in honor of the daughter he lost, but dedicated to the children who were alive, needing, waiting. The foundation offered temporary housing, jobs, training, legal support, everything Sarah and Lily didn't have when they desperately needed it. Everything Ethan wished he could have given to more people. The first family they took in was a mom with 2 kids, evicted, no job, no support network. Sarah handled the case personally. The woman cried when she got the key to the temporary apartment. Sarah hugged her, told her it was going to be okay. And it was. 6 months later, the woman had a steady job. The kids were in school, smiling, living a dignified childhood. In the next 5 years, the foundation helped 143 families. Ethan cut back his hours at the architecture firm even more, spent half his time at the foundation. Sarah became the executive director. Lily helped on weekends, organizing donations, sorting clothes, talking to the kids who arrived scared. She understood, because she arrived like that once too. The bakery, where it all started, became an official partner. Every week they donated cakes, bread, sweets, to the shelters, to the families helped by the foundation. The owner put a bronze plaque in the window. Proud supporter of the Grace Foundation. Ethan and Sarah stopped by there sometimes, had coffee, remembered. The employee who said no that day didn't work there anymore, but the memory remained, transformed, repurposed. In the living room, an entire wall became a memorial. Framed photos, the first one, Sarah, Ethan and Lily in the bakery. The cake with 6 candles in front, the 3 of them smiling, shyly, not knowing yet what they were building out of the ruins. Then, Lily on her first day of school, Ethan and Sarah on their wedding day, simple, in the backyard. Lily as the flower girl, photos of the foundation, of the families helped, of the smiling kids, of the legacy growing year by year. Ethan stopped in front of the wall on a Sunday afternoon. Lily was in her room. Sarah appeared behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, rested her cheek on his back. "What are you thinking about?" "About how everything changed." "It really did." He turned around, cupped her face with both hands, with infinite tenderness. "Thank you." "For what?" "For staying, for believing, for building all this with me." Sarah smiled, kissed him, quick, simple, full of love, just like them. Lily came downstairs yelling she was hungry. They laughed, went to the kitchen, the 3 of them, cooked dinner together, talking, laughing, living. And as the night fell outside, inside that house there was light, warmth, family. Not the family they planned in their youthful dreams, not the family they lost with so much pain, but the family they chose, that they built brick by brick, that saved each other. Because sometimes life doesn't give second chances. It gives completely new chances. And it's up to each of us to recognize them, to grab onto them, and to transform a cake in a bakery into a home, into a legacy of hope, into living proof that kindness is never wasted. It always returns, multiplied, in forms we never imagined, but which are exactly what we needed all along.